Hey everyone, before we start the show, I just want to get some plugs out of the way. If you enjoy this podcast and you're into wrestling, check out the Nerds and Marks podcast or Marty and Sarah Love Wrestling. If you're not getting your fill on movie and entertainment discussion, then check out the Entertainment Buffet podcast. If you want to dive into the world of video games, I highly recommend the Darkcast by my friends over at darkstation.com. Listen to them cover important topics and interview men and women from all over the industry. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show. Hello everyone and welcome to Shelved episode 20. I am your host, Jeremy Meyer. Alright, we did it. 20 episodes. It's pretty exciting. And on our 10th episode, we did a big one. We did Power Rangers. And again, we're doing another big one, and that's Wonder Woman. Now, we have a Wonder Woman film coming out in theaters today, or last night if you're one of those people that go to the Thursday night screenings, which I've honestly never done. I've never done an opening night screening of a movie. I even worked at a movie theater. I never even worked an opening night screening. So, I don't know. That's just, I'm not a big fan of crowds, so I usually avoid that kind of stuff. I usually like to go middle of the week or the weekend after, but sometimes I do opening weekend. That's kind of the best I'll do. But enough about that. So, yeah, today we are talking about Wonder Woman, but we're not talking about the script based on the movie coming out. We're talking about a script from 2006 written by Joss Whedon. Now, Joss Whedon maybe has the most interesting path through the superhero movie world. He wrote this script in 2006, which never ended up getting made, basically just because differences from studio executives. And then he went on to become the director of Avengers and Avengers Age of Ultron, $2 billion grossing movies, which for all intents and purposes seemed to break him mentally because he just kind of fizzled out after Age of Ultron and just seemed sick of it all and kind of stepped away, which, you know, everybody was kind of disappointed, but the people who stepped up, the Russo brothers, I think they're great, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, so he was kind of gone and nobody thought he was going to be directing a superhero movie anytime soon. And then all of a sudden it got announced that he's doing Batgirl, which is amazing. If anybody was going to do Batgirl, I think he's a great choice. And now he's even stepped up to take over directing Justice League after Zack Snyder's recent family tragedy. So it's been a really crazy path for Joss Whedon. And it's weird to see where he is now and to read this script from back in 2006 and see what could have been. It's a really interesting read. I don't know anything about Wonder Woman. I am excited to see this movie because as I have been a huge dissenting voice on the recent DC movies, because frankly, I think they've all been really bad. Wonder Woman is the one from the trailers, and I mean, I said this about Suicide Squad, so maybe it could totally go the other way. But I think the trailers look really good, and I am actually really excited for this movie. But the difference between this and Suicide Squad is early reviews are very positive for Wonder Woman, which is great because it's the first female-led superhero, and that's a great thing, and anybody who says it isn't just needs to shut the fuck up. I mean, it's kind of hard to avoid talking about Wonder Woman and not get into the politics of it, and we do a little bit on the show, and I just want to say I am not the smartest person when it comes to this kind of stuff, so maybe everything I say on it is stupid, but I have my feelings, and I just want to enjoy good movies, and I want to support movies, and I want to support women leading movies because that's a thing Hollywood has had a problem with for a long time, and no matter where you sit, it's hard to deny that. And I just want it to be good. I want it to be positive for everybody, and it sounds like it is going to be, so I'm super excited to hear about that. And I was super excited to talk about this script. I sat down with Maggie, who we've talked about a lot of, she's been a guest multiple times, and a lot of the scripts we've ended up talking about have not had very positive female characters or that many female characters at all. So it's nice to sit with her and talk about one that is a female-led movie. And I think she had a good time talking about it. I know I had a good time talking about it. And I got to learn a little more about Wonder Woman because that's a character who I've read her in comics like Justice League, and I'm starting to read Superman and Wonder Woman, the first volume. So I'm kind of trying to get into it a little bit, but it's just one of those characters, I never knew much about, so I wasn't that interested aside from what I saw in like the cartoons and stuff. And it's a character I want to learn more about because she is one of the big three for DC. And she was one of the best parts of Batman v Superman. Gal Gadot is, I think, a great choice for Wonder Woman. So I'm really excited to see what she does in the movie and not just being a featured character in Batman v Superman, a role that I thought she did well in, but I think did not belong in that movie. I'll talk about that more one day when I cover that movie. But yeah, so this is me and Maggie talking about Wonder Woman, written by Joss Whedon. Because I want to say Justice League Unlimited was basically the third season of Justice League. They just changed the name of the show.
They added a lot of... Yeah, that was cool. They added a lot of people. I like that.
Yeah, like we actually put it on in the back one day because I had it on Netflix. And like the first episode, it's like Green Arrow and Supergirl. Because I think the whole concept of the show was just every superhero's in the Justice League now.
Yeah.
And then the main players were there to kind of help them along. And I think Green Arrow was the one who didn't want to join or something.
I remember the line from the commercial, which was like, I don't remember why I know this, but it was something like, he was saying like, I don't want to fight monsters. I need to help the little guy. And
who was it?
Someone says, I want to say like, Green Arrow says.
That probably, because he's a street level guy.
Yeah, I don't want to fight monsters. I want to fight like, or I don't want to, I want to help the little guy. And everything. And someone says to him like, the monsters tend to step on the little guy. And I want to say like Batman or something says something like that. I was like, cool.
That show really holds up.
Yeah.
Like we put it on. We probably marathon. I don't know how many episodes Netflix plays before it's like, do you want to keep watching? I think it's probably like 3 or 4. So we probably watched like 8 episodes. Nice. And then, because they're 20 minets, they fly by.
I like 20-minute episodes.
Yeah, me too. I really value 20-minute episode shows now after marathoning shows like Breaking Bad and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong, I love an hour-long drama, but when you can give me a 20-minute episode, I'll blast through a show.
Yeah, I tend to rewatch Parks and Rec like regularly.
I've been trying to get into that one for a long time, and I just hear the first season's really rough, and you got to get through it.
But it's only like 6 episodes.
Is it?
So it only takes 2 hours to get through it. So it's not that bad.
I watched the first episode, and I was just like, oh, this is so boring.
No, it's kind of like an Office ripoff.
Yeah, and I wasn't a huge fan of The Office, so I didn't really get into it. But man, it just kind of smells in here all of a sudden. You smell it? Yeah, I want to get into it because it's got a lot of people in the show that I like Rob Lowe when he gets into it and Adam Scott.
Yeah.
But the first episode, it's real rough, and everybody just says you have to just get through the first season.
Yeah, I made one of my friends watch 2 episodes one time because I was like, I'm gonna make you watch these. You're gonna sit down and watch them because she couldn't get into it either, and now it's one of her favorite shows.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like that's what would happen with me because like The Office, I really liked until Pam and Jim got married. And then it was downhill for me.
Right.
I stopped watching when they found out she was pregnant. So I never saw the last season of that or anything.
It was fine. I liked it. I know a lot of people didn't, but that's the thing also with 21 episodes. I'm more forgiving than if I just sat through an hour.
Yeah.
And I think that Parks and Rec has a bunch of the strongest seasons at the end, too. Like a really good... Yeah, like the final season was really good.
Yeah, I do want to get into it. I had so many friends that would always tell me about it. And I see clips from it all the time that like make me laugh.
I've probably... watch the entire series all the way through, and that includes the season that just like came out probably like 4 times. I can rewatch in 2 weeks flat.
Yeah, I haven't rewatched a show in a long time. I used to rewatch Scrubs a lot. That's one of my favorite shows. I did buy the entirety of the Batman animated series on DVD.
Nice.
And I haven't like touched it really.
Yeah.
But I do want to watch that. But we're here to talk about Wonder Woman. So,
oh, yeah.
So what would be your introduction? Like, where do you sit on Wonder Woman? I know you're a comic reader like me. I don't know anybody that really reads Wonder Woman. So
no, I definitely read a lot more Marvel than I read DC.
Yeah, me too.
My introduction to Wonder Woman was whatever my local library had. that's the majority of Wonder Woman stuff I have read.
Yeah. So you have read some Wonder Woman?
Yeah, but it's really scattered. Kind of what and looking back, I can think of like storylines and stuff, but I can't think of probably like authors because this was a long time ago.
Yeah, I could not tell you one person who's written a Wonder Woman book.
But I liked everything I read. It just never... It also did seem pretty inconsistent to me from author to author. I felt like with X... Because the comic that I really got into from reading stuff at the library and then I started purchasing myself was X-Men. And part of that was there was a lot of characters with consistent personalities.
Yeah.
And I feel like Wonder Woman herself, her personality can change a lot. And I feel like we see like Wonder Woman in here and then there's another one you see in...
Yeah, it kind of depends on what run they're in or who's handling her.
Yeah.
Like some versions, maybe she doesn't kill. And another version, she's a warrior, so she's going to kill whoever, you know?
And that made me not as interested because, I mean, she had different cast of characters and different... And, like, some I really liked and then some I was like, all right, well, this one's fine.
Yeah. Are you excited for the movie? Like,
I have tickets.
You do have tickets?
Yeah, I got tickets.
So you're seeing it this weekend?
Yeah, I'm seeing it on Sunday. I was happy to see, like, I couldn't get tickets for Friday or Saturday.
Really?
For the times I wanted, yeah.
Yeah.
I see it at a tinier theater, so that's part of it.
Yeah.
But.
Did you... Because you didn't see some of the other DC movies, right? Like Suicide Squad?
Yeah, I have a thing where well, not really, but I want to support movies with female leads.
Yes.
So I kind of felt obligated. Plus, I'm really excited for this one.
Yeah. Honestly,
I do want to see it.
So, did you see Batman v Superman?
I did.
Did you see Man of Steel?
Maybe.
Maybe.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. And you did not see Suicide Squad, right?
I did.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I thought you didn't see that one. Yeah, so...
I saw it on Blu-ray, like...
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So I assume you're kind of with the general population with those. You're not a big fan?
Yeah, no. I'm not a huge fan of, like, super dark stuff, reboots. I think that the Christopher Nolan Batman did it best, and
yeah, I mean,
everything
there was
else,
humor in those movies.
Yeah, that too, but I think everything else has been kind of has not lived up to that standard in the DC universe.
No, and I feel the same way. I have a deep hatred for all three of those movies, like way more than is rational. But I'm excited for Wonder Woman. When they put out the first trailer, I was skeptical, but as more trailers came out, I'm like, this actually looks really good. Yeah. And I was definitely questionable about the World War I thing. Like, I don't know if that time period is necessary, but I think it's going to end up working out.
I think it's going to help set it apart in tone, and I mean, some people said like about the sepia tone, like
how everything has that like kind of washed out
but
look.
I'd rather have that than be blue
but I
gray.
So I don't know if you've been paying attention to any of the reviews or anything.
Not really.
I've listened. So it's kind of one of those things where like, look, I know it's going to be an origin story, so I actually listened to a spoiler cast on it. So they didn't really go into detail about plot stuff. So I honestly didn't get the movie spoiled, but they did talk about things like this movie is actually a lot more colorful than you think.
Okay.
Like.
They went with a theme for the trailer.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's because they definitely talk like, first of all, everybody's saying it's good, which is DC needs a win. So good for them. Oh. And it's one of those things where I want to try to not sound like an asshole when I say this. I think it's going to be a totally average superhero movie that is going to be elevated because it's a woman character, and I think that's great for the movie. I want it to be successful, and I want it to be good. And it sounds like it's an origin movie, which if we look at the last like 10 years, everybody's like, I'm sick of origin movies because we've seen it 100 times, but it is the first one with a woman.
What's very interesting about this script is it is and isn't an origin movie. You don't find out anything about how Diana herself came to be.
And I feel like the actual movie is going to be similar.
I thought that was very unusual. And also Wonder Woman is a character that has gone through multiple
origins.
Yeah, so
either she's made of clay or she's the daughter of a god. It's been a couple different things.
Yeah, so I thought that this one was interesting where it's like she's obviously like the youngest of the Amazons. That's hinted at pretty heavily that she's kind of a rebellious child a little bit. But other than that, and she's the daughter of the queen, which, again, in all versions she is.
Which, I will say, I was very surprised at how quick we jumped into all of that. Like, literally the opening is Steve Trevor crashing on the island. And I thought we'd get, like, a little bit of either her on the island, her or him, setting up his mission. but it kind of just opens with him there.
Yeah, he's there and she's there with no context of who she is. We know she's Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a big story of who she is. They kind of get into it. It starts with their relationship right off the bat, not the relationship of her and her mother or her and the other Amazons.
Which the other Amazons are really downplayed in this.
Yeah, there's like one kind of angry lady and a friend.
Athera is her friend. And I don't know who the angry lady is. And I think we're going with how did I pronounce her mom's name a little bit ago?
That's how I want to say. Yeah, I can't.
I think we're just going to keep mispronouncing. We're just going to have to get it out of the way. We don't know how to say the name of the island, which we think is Themyscira, which is what we're going to go with. And then her mom's name, which honestly, her mom is only in the beginning. I expected, like, we get a hint of her at the end, but we don't actually see her again.
Yeah.
So, Hippolyte? Hippolyte.
And it is spelled, I think, at least 2 different ways in the script.
Yeah, it definitely seemed like it was either a typo or something. It's kind of a couple different ways. Right away we get him crashing on the island, and the first person he meets is Diana, which she's definitely. I'll say first of all, it's a Joss Whedon script, so naturally there's a lot of really good dialogue in the script.
Yeah.
I really like kind of all of the banter we get with him and her throughout this thing.
It definitely felt more like a Marvel movie than a DC movie.
It did. And it felt, so this was 2006. So this was after Batman Begins. That was 2004, I believe. And that was definitely the tone setting comic book movie for ever. Because at this point we had Spider-Man 2. We did not have Spider-Man 3 yet. So we had those and then Batman Begins. I can't think of
X-Men movies, right?
Yeah.
Or at least one.
What was Wolverine 2004 maybe? No, that was 2009.
I would say that's
so,
but some X-Men movies.
Yeah, probably X3 at least.
Think?
Maybe.
All right, maybe.
Yeah, no, probably just 2.
Yeah, I think one.
Maybe around the same time as X3.
Yeah.
So comic book movies were definitely in a place. Like, things were going. DC had pretty much only been focusing on Batman. Superman Returns came out in 2006, so that was happening. But that one, kind of a flop. Yeah. And I like tone wise, I kind of feel Superman Returns and Wonder Woman would have been similar. Superman was definitely a little more boring because it was a little more, what's the word? Not focusing on
relationships
and social issues.
Yeah,
very introspective. A lot of thinking in my Superman movie and less punching. Wonder Woman definitely is the opposite of that. There's quite a bit of action in the script. Right away we start with a plane crash that's described in a pretty great detail. And she kind of he's teetering off a cliff and she saves him, and then he gets brought before the Queen, and then we go pretty quickly into a sword fight.
Yeah. Some lassoing.
Yes. So
they compel the truth out of him.
So I'll say a lot of the Wonder Woman things I find pretty ridiculous. The lasso of truth, the invisible jet, which we'll talk about. Yeah. But I feel like the lasso is a thing that they can make work. It's obviously in the
especially
movie
with in a kind of mythological sense. I think that does work. Of
Yeah. Which I'll say, Wonder Woman definitely has its roots in mythology, and the movie doesn't. This script, I should say, doesn't play enough on that.
Yeah, and I think some of the fun parts are when it does.
Yeah, like the God of Wine was a good moment.
Yeah.
And what's the villain's name?
Strife.
Yeah, which I tried looking up Strife, and he doesn't seem to be a character from DC. He seems based on another character.
Yes, Strife is a lady in Wonder Woman comics.
And it's a different name.
Yeah, Eros
something like that. And she's the sister of Ares, or the daughter, maybe?
Daughter, I believe.
Yeah, and as Strife in this is the son of Ares, right? Yeah. So it's the same but different. He kind of made it his own. But so I do like the lasso of truth scene in the beginning.
It's a very easy, quick way to establish Steve Trevor as nice guy.
Yeah, so they lasso him, and the whole thing is, what are we going to do with this guy? Because a man has never set foot here. Are we going to?
And he's not allowed to.
Yeah.
That was... Again, that wasn't really explained. That was just kind of men cannot set foot on here.
And I think it's just because it's implied that the bracelets on their wrists, they were once shackles, which is from the Wonder Woman lore. So I listened to this podcast called Geek History Lesson. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
No.
So basically what they do is they take a character, they take a storyline or something, and they just devote one podcast episode to it. And they did Wonder Woman because obviously Wonder Woman's coming up. So I did learn a little bit about Wonder Woman going into this from them.
Yeah, that they now wear it as a symbol of their
their freedom. Oh yeah, of their oppression. Yeah. But in how they are now free. Yeah. And it does come into play later, and that's where we get the bullets and bracelets going on with that. And so I like the lasso of truth moment where they're questioning him, and it's like, are you going to tell anybody about us? No. Are you going to try to hurt us? No. And he's like, what if somebody was threatening your family? And he's like, oh, absolutely. Yeah. And like, they do a couple moments like that throughout the script.
Yeah.
My favorite one is when he's just talking to her, and it's after she had been hurt, and he's like just speaking, and all of a sudden he's like, and all I want is for you to just turn around and move your towel so I can see you naked. And then he pulls out, like, he's sitting on the lasso, and he's like, can we not just leave this lying around?
Yeah.
Like, that's something Joss Whedon has always been kind of good at, is poking fun at, and just really good banter and dialogue between people, and the insertion of jokes, which we obviously in things like the Avengers and stuff like that.
Yeah. So yeah, they sentence him to death.
Yeah.
And Diana's like, well, I'm going to challenge, I'm going to fight for him or whatever. And
a trial by combat, basically.
And like, well, we'll have to do a tournament to find the strongest warrior here. And in some lore, I know that's how she becomes Wonder Woman. That she fights everyone there to be like,
really?
To like go out and
to be able to leave the island.
Yeah, to kind of find the world, or to like accompany Steve back, and like I can't remember the exact one, but Diana's like, don't even bother. I know what it is. It's my mom. I'm gonna go fight her.
Yeah. So immediately it's her and her mom. So right away they bring her out in the Wonder Woman outfit, and I was surprised by that because I think the trend for a lot of superhero movies at the time, and we see this in kind of like Daredevil and stuff like that, is you don't get them in the costume until like the very end.
Yeah, a lot of times they'll wear a makeshift costume that's kind of reminiscent, even like the Captain America one where he's wearing like the faux Captain American one.
I love
that kind of stuff. The Spider-Man wearing the hoodie and everything.
Yeah.
They don't let them quite in the costume because again the costumes are ridiculous.
Yeah, they are. And
where do you get one of those things?
And it's only now that we've been doing comic book movies since 2008 can we finally just like introduce a character looking exactly how they do in the comics and nobody bats an eye anymore.
Well, pretty much do that.
Like
here.
You look at X-Men Apocalypse and Psylocke is just in the Psylocke outfit and everybody loved it and nobody was like, hey, that's a weird outfit to wear. It's just like, no, we finally get to see the outfit we want to see.
Yeah, they just kind of went with it.
Yeah. And so that I was surprised that it's just like, hey, we're in the outfit. And then she sword fights her mom. And it seems like she loses, but her mom lets her go anyway. Just because she's, like, stubborn.
Yeah, she's like, well, you're going to do this anyway. So she knows her daughter. She lets her go.
And I will say, for the most part, I thought the script was really well structured, really well paced. There were two moments that were really weird to me. One comes a little later, but this was one of them. Like, it just seemed like, okay, we need to move the plot forward. So even though we prove that her mom is a better fighter, she's going to let her go because she knows it's her daughter and she's just stubborn.
Yeah, I think maybe because I know some of the Wonder Woman mythology, which, like, this happens, like, literally every time.
Yeah.
That doesn't bother me as much because I know she's like, well, I have to let her go. I have to let her go kind of thing. I guess you see it so many times, like, all right, well.
Yeah.
But it does come kind of abruptly in this.
Yeah, it just seems like.
Because she's so dead set on, we gotta kill this guy.
Yeah, and
we gotta kill this guy.
It just feels like, hey, we need to move the plot forward.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you picked up on something while we're on the island for a short period of time, because honestly, when they leave the island, we never come back to it.
Nope.
So right before they leave, so she has a friend who keeps hinting.
Wants to see that dick.
Yeah. But it also, there's also hints of like, they might have hooked up themselves.
Yeah.
Like free love type situation.
And I think that's the way a lot of the Themyscira is portrayed in the
comics. I feel like it's walked around a lot, and I actually heard that it might be like that in the movie as well.
Yeah, I think it's been more confirmed recently, but
it was definitely one of those things for years that was always, because hey, it's an island full of women and people have needs, you know. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of her friend hinting at like, hey, did you see his dick?
Yeah.
That felt very Joss Whedon for me.
Yeah, especially because like no men are on this island for like thousands of years.
Yeah.
And like all of a sudden the first guy, like, you gotta see that dick.
Yeah.
Like,
and again, it feels like a Joss Whedon thing to hint that Diana and her friend have probably hooked up in the past too, because there's just like a little bit of flirtiness in the dialogue between them. It felt subtle, but it definitely felt like he wanted to push that agenda forward, you know.
And something that is interesting is this movie does take place, it seems like modern times.
I was a little confused about that for a while, because I guess I went in going with the idea that like, oh, the movie's coming out in the movies in World War I.
Yeah.
And like they never describe what kind of plane it is, so we don't really get to see the time period until about like 30 or 40 pages in.
Yeah, there's some, when they finally get to like a city, it becomes clear. Yeah, when they start talking about some of the warlord guys, I was like, all right, well, I think this would be more modern than World War I.
Yeah.
But I couldn't quite place my finger. They're like, all right, modern times,
like,
it seems like.
When they're talking about his plane, I'm literally picturing like a biplane.
Me too. I was like old-timey. And then
yeah.
But yeah, I kind of tried to think if that made anything different in the beginning. It really didn't. I was just trying to, because yeah, there isn't a lot of time stuff, I guess. You don't know how long, you don't know how old Diana is quite.
Yeah, we don't know how old anyone is. There's no timestamp on any part of the script.
No.
So yeah, it's a modern day script, but it's just one of those things where you don't find out for a while. You have to kind of pick it out of the dialogue.
Yeah.
So we get them leaving the island, and the first thing that kind of happens is they encounter some warlord guys. So the whole thing is Steve was trying to bring some supplies to this place in Africa where it seems to be maybe like a civil war type situation going on. And they're immediately kind of strong-armed by some warlord guys who end up taking the supplies. One moment I do like, though. So Steve leaves her on the plane while he's trying to sort out the situation. As soon as she steps on the ground, there's like the wind changes direction and there's like a gust, and we get Strife across the world who notices it. Yeah,
it was very interesting. Like that.
Like as soon as she touched land.
Yeah, not the island. Some sort of balance has shifted in the world.
Yeah.
Which I think is really, that's one of the things I like that really connected her to like mythology and the world around her. And like she made a choice and it is affecting a lot of stuff more than she realizes.
And that actually kind of becomes a big theme of the script. Like the general theme is it's kind of like fish out of water, but she sees Steve sees her as kind of trouble, and she sees the world as something that just needs to be improved, and that's why she's there.
Yeah.
And it's something that's kind of picked at a little bit throughout the script.
Yeah, I didn't love all of it, but...
Yeah, it's a little rocky. And I will say one thing we kind of skipped over that I forgot about is right when he finds out who she is, that she's the princess, he immediately becomes a dick to her.
He really
like, does. For no reason.
He's like, oh, you're a princess. You have everything handed to you. I was like...
He just assumes right out of the gate.
Weird. You've known her for... She
literally
just saved your
minutes.
life. Yeah. And you've known her for about 10 minutes. I was like, you've had the world's easiest life. He becomes like weird
literally
Han
starts
Solo mode.
He literally starts talking to her like he was a girlfriend, or she was a girlfriend who cheated on him. Like,
yeah, that was pretty abrupt. He's got some like class issues that he's not ready to explore.
It came out of nowhere, and I mean, this feels like a first draft in that way because. So like I said, that moment, and then there's the moment that I said came out kind of abruptly, like, hey, we need to move the script forward. And we have another one, which I'll just say it now. We have another one later where I literally thought pages were missing from the script, where she's dealing with like a street thug, and then all of a sudden a building's collapsing. Did you pick up on that?
Yeah, it was a little strange where I couldn't quite tell.
Yeah, it's a little bit later from what we're talking about right now, but I was like, literally, I like, because we were reading, I think it was the James Bond script where a page was out of order, so I skipped ahead a few pages. I'm reading something, I'm like, wait a minute, and the problem was with this photocopy is the page numbers were cut off on the top, so I couldn't tell. But literally, and like I read it 3 or 4 times, I'm like, no, I guess this is just what it is.
Goes fast.
Yeah, it just felt like it literally felt like a transition scene was missing.
Yeah, I felt a little bit some way with some of the dialogue that it could have been more fleshed out in some places.
Yeah, like as good as some of it is, like other places just seems like, all right, let's go.
Yeah, a lot of the one-liners, the snappy stuff, but when it comes to some of the emotional beats, they need a little more because there's so much emotion.
Yeah,
they tend
like
to
like
come
you said,
out
it needed to be fleshed out more.
Yeah.
I would 100% agree. Because there is a lot of like cat and mouse with the love story type situation.
Yeah.
Like they're clearly into each other, but I don't feel like there's enough of that evident to see them falling for each other.
No.
It's just kind of implied like, oh, she's the female lead, he's the male lead.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're gonna fall in love.
And more, and the stuff that's hinted at is more, I feel like, sexual attraction than anything else.
And he's honestly a dick to her multiple times.
Really bad. I read one thing because I was just like flipping, seeing what other people thought of the script a little bit.
Yeah.
And someone explained it as that he just mansplains the earth to her.
Yeah.
And he really does. And I don't even like that term all the time, but he really does.
Yeah.
He just kind of like, well, I know how everything works. You're a princess. Like,
yeah. And like you said, I think all the comedy moments are really well done. Some of the side characters are kind of useless. They don't do it because we get introduced to a couple of his buddies who I don't even think I ended up taking notes on their names.
No, they're the team. There's a guy. There's a doctor.
They literally don't do much besides just hang out. Like the only time they do anything is in the club scene.
Yeah, I thought like you could probably have reduced them into one character of Steve's friend.
Yeah. On it, that would have been way, and honestly, that seems like something in a second draft would have happened.
Yeah.
So we get our kind of first big action scene, which I will say, normally action scenes I get kind of bored reading in scripts. I actually enjoyed quite a few of the action scenes.
Yeah.
So the first one we get is she gets shot by this warlord guy, and.
Yes, that is something that's interesting to me because, she comes out, I was going to say guns blazing, but no, just her.
She's kind of like, what's going on?
Yeah, she comes out ready to go, ready to defend, not sit on the plane like Steve told her. And she gets shot and she gets hurt by it.
Yeah.
And something that her mom does tell her before she leaves is she will be weakened.
Yeah.
Which I thought was very interesting because it's so... We don't understand how strong she is.
Yeah. And honestly, myself, I've never been very clear on Wonder Woman's power set. Like, I know she has super strength.
Yeah.
I know in some versions she can fly, which we'll talk about that later. And then other than that, it's like, she has the lasso and her weapons and that's all I really know.
And an amount of invulnerability that is vague. But her
aging is probably seems to be affected. Because the thing is like her and Superman are kind of counterparts. And they're kind of the only ones who can understand each other because they have similar powers.
Yeah, it was just weird to say that she was going to be weakened when a baseline wasn't really established to begin with. Yeah. But then she got shot. But later she pulls the bullet out and recovers, it seems, pretty quickly. But it's just interesting that they make that kind of adjustment to her power level quite early in the script.
Yeah, because, she gets shot and it basically knocks her out for a while. Yeah. And when she comes to, she's like, well, I'm going to go deal with this. So we get a pretty good action scene where she goes to their camp and it's nighttime and, she takes out some of the perimeter guards. And then we actually, you don't see this a lot in scripts, but he actually describes. So it's kind of a rule of thumb that if you're not directing a script, you often don't include camera shots, like unless it's something very specific. Mm-hmm. But since obviously Joss Whedon, he's a writer-director, there's some of that stuff in there. So he describes the camera underneath a truck, and you see a bunch of soldiers' feet, and the camera is moving forward as you see her feet land, and you hear the sound effects and see her kind of kick the crap out of these guys, and by the time the camera reaches out the bottom of the truck, they're already knocked out and stuff. And stuff like that, that's really cool.
It makes the script faster and fun.
Yeah. And again, that's something you don't see in a lot of scripts, but when it's done, it made it a lot more easier to read, because sometimes the action scenes, like the James Bond, the James Bond script we read, the action scenes can really bog it down. Mm-hmm. So she ends up, I'm trying to remember some of the specifics of this battle because I really like this scene. Like, I know she pushes a truck off a cliff and like drags a bunch of guys, drags a tent with it. Yeah. Because the truck was used as like leverage for the tent. So she pushes it off the cliff and it basically wraps the tent like a net and drags them down, which I really liked. And then, she just ends up like kicking the crap out of these guys. And it's kind of our first heroic moment with her. So I think from that, we get introduced to Strife. So looking at my notes, we actually skipped this part. So after she gets shot, we get introduced to Strife, who basically kills a reporter in a subway. And it's kind of one of those things we don't really find out why for a while. It was a
little weird. I couldn't quite tell if I just couldn't. Yeah, a homeless guy takes a reporter down into a subway, correct? Yeah. And there's like a mural like spray painted on the wall, which depicts like gods and monsters and stuff like that. Yeah.
And then Strife just kind of appears and like sends her to hell, basically. Like he basically opens up a hole in the ground and sends her down.
I thought this reporter was going to be important in the script because she had a name.
I took notes of her name and stuff. Then literally she's gone.
And then she's gone. I was like, oh, all right. I thought she was gonna be like Wonder Woman's like sassy reporter friend. No, dead.
Yeah. And we end up finding out a little later that she was a reporter investigating the villain who works for a company called Spearhead, and they're kind of, hey, we make military weapons and blah blah blah, but they got a little bit of a secret society business going on.
Yeah. In terms of the villain, I thought it was fine. He was fine.
Callus is the villain, Arabella Callus.
Yes.
But she's just referred to as Callus.
So there's a lady businesswoman.
Yeah, so she's the CEO of Spearhead.
And then she's pretty much...
She's working with Strife, and their whole thing, like, to kind of just boil it down, it's kind of like destroy the world, rebuild it in our image type situation, I believe.
Which is fine. It was nothing special, and a little, always a little convoluted when they want to destroy everything.
Like, overall, the villain is kind of a disappointment for me.
Yeah, it was a big because we can. Because everything was because we can, because war, because humans love war, destruction.
And it's the whole thing of like, because humans don't really believe in the gods anymore, they've all weakened, except for Ares, because he's the god of war.
And Dionysus is
and Dionysus because he's the god of wine.
That kind of stuff, the one throwaway line that I didn't like was like, oh yeah, Athena, she's gone. Who needs wisdom anymore? I was like, oh, that's kind of like that modern society is the worst kind of stuff where I'm just like, oh, whatever. Yeah. I don't like that.
Yeah, it gets a little heavy on that stuff.
Yeah.
So to bring Diana and this villain into conflict with each other, Diana gets brought to the city, which I'm trying to remember, the Gateway City, which is where Spearhead is basically like headquartered. In Gateway City, they literally describe it, which I like this, is like, they say if you want to see the world, go to Gateway City and walk 10 blocks. And basically it's just like, it's like a hub where cultures from all over the world come to this big metropolis.
Yeah, but I think it's also good to set it apart from Metropolis and talk them a little bit, something a little different than like what I would say, like, Chicago and New York is obviously the other two, and they're trying to set it apart a little bit.
Which I've covered a couple superhero scripts on this show already, and I will say this is one of the only ones that doesn't attempt to connect to any other superhero.
No.
There's no mention of Metropolis, no Superman or anything like that.
Yeah, no throwaway lines.
Yeah, so that is pretty unique. I don't know if you listened to the last one I did, which was Green Arrow. They name dropped Joker, Lex Luthor, and multiple superheroes. So there's none of that here. This is strictly Wonder Woman, which to me is good. That stuff can get a little distracting sometimes. Yeah. And of course, this was before we were building universes. Yeah. So
no one's worried about that stuff.
Yeah. So they get to the city, and Diana's like, I want to go around. I want to see everything. I want to know everything. And Steve's like, hey, why don't we could be a little much. Let's just hang out in the hotel room or whatever. He's like, just tell me where you are, and I'll meet you there later. And he just lets her go, which is kind of crazy because she's this dangerous woman walking around the city. And that's kind of his reason. He's like, I'm not worried about that, like you. I'm worried about the city, like, because he's seen what she's capable of at this point. And of course, so we get her walking around, and one of the first things she comes up to, which to me is maybe the most cliche moment of the movie, is she comes up to a bunch of TV screens in a window. And of course, what's it showing? It's showing war, the news, basically, just death and famine, and then cut to bright, cheery commercial.
Yeah, it's kind of like, that's the kind of stuff I don't like. It's like, this is the modern world, and it's dumb, and nobody needs wisdom, and it's war, but also commercials. Like,
yeah, it's like, look at this contrast of the world, and she's looking at it like, oh, this is terrible. Like, something needs to be done.
Yeah,
and like, I get it, but it just feels like something we've seen a million times before, and making a statement that we all know. This
is the part where I was thinking I rather would have seen her trying to, I don't know, connect with a child, like something to be cliche, girl power-y, or that kind of route where like she's doing something for peace, because that's a big part of her, like being peaceful.
Or honestly spending more time with Steve. Yeah. Because they don't honestly spend a bunch of time together in the script. No,
they kind of go their separate ways at different
there's
points.
Not enough character development for either one of them outside of just the basic stuff we already know. Mm-hmm. Like she comes across a couple like muggers and stuff like that, and we see her, defend people, and like obviously she wants to protect people. And that's kind of where it begins and ends with her.
I wish she had more motivation regarding like from the island or something. Like, I was taught this and this is. I wish she had more motivation from her upbringing from the island, being like, I've seen what women working together could do. I've seen like what we can build, like something like that.
Instead of like that's all. There's none of that in there.
No,
and that even I didn't pick that up. Like,
I found it to be kind of a bummer because I've read like Wonder Woman comics, like Wonder Woman goes to UN meetings and like talks to people, and it's cool. And
like I haven't seen a lot of Wonder Woman stuff, but I've seen a couple of the animated movies and stuff, and that's usually how it goes. Is she is almost an ambassador for Themyscira.
Yeah.
But in this, it's just kind of like she's hanging out in the city.
Yeah, she's like, this is wrong, and I'm gonna fix it, but no context to why she wants to fix it.
Yeah, and. So it's impossible not to look at a Wonder Woman movie in the spectrum of this is a female-led project, and this treats it as if it's just another movie, which in a way is kind of nice too. They're not trying to push anything.
Catwoman where the bad guy sells makeup.
Yeah. Oh my god. I recently saw the Honest trailer for that. I try to forget that movie even exists. But yeah, like. It's one of those things where, like, you kind of should push an agenda at some point, and
because that Wonder Woman does. Wonder Woman has an agenda of peace, and so that stuff kind of it did. I felt like it could have used some more beats. Would have made her a stronger character, I think.
Yeah, and then there are moments that kind of like, for one, the script constantly describes about how beautiful she is and how everybody is just so lost in her beauty and stuff like that. And it just doesn't do anything with it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. The movie's not saying anything, I guess, is the problem. It's just, here are these characters, here's the conflict, let's get through it.
Yeah, and with a generic villain, that kind of, it would have been I think it would have gotten better with a couple of drafts, because I could see the bones of a good movie, but this version would have been, I think, a superhero movie. I don't think it would have been the nail in the coffin of female superhero movies, but
no. I mean, Elektra was almost that. But so it's one of those things where, so I like in my research to find out why this never happened, basically I kind of found out that he wrote the script and him and the executives just couldn't see eye to eye on the project. They wanted one thing, he wanted another, and they eventually just kind of went their separate ways. So I honestly have no idea how many drafts there was.
I'd be so interested to know what those conflicts were.
I would really like to know.
What direction they were trying to push.
Especially now, where we are now with Joss Whedon stepping into the DC universe.
Yeah.
Like, that is kind of it's one of those things where this was 2006, now we're in 2017, and he went from getting rejected to a Wonder Woman script to directing two of the biggest comic book movies of all time to now he's back in DC. And it's just such a crazy way to think, such a crazy path to realize.
Yeah, it would have changed a lot, I think, that if he had been with DC rather than Marvel for some of those movies. Yeah,
it's really crazy to think. So this is we're coming up to the point where I was talking about where we get her on the street and then all of a sudden the building's just collapsing, which for no reason. So we get introduced to the Chimera. That's which I assume is where the building starts collapsing. So the Chimera is described as basically a dragon, but it's also a machine, and I really couldn't understand what they were trying to get across.
I could not picture it
at all.
No, because it's supposed to because the way it's described is super organic sounding.
Yeah.
Like it's heads and it's tails, but then
it's got gears and
it's.
So basically, I pictured the flying things from the Avengers, and that made it a lot easier to understand.
Yeah, I can see that.
And I almost wonder if maybe that's what that became.
Because
there's literally a scene where they're fighting on it at one point, and at first I was kind of picturing like, oh, well, how would you fight on this thing? But I was like, oh wait, that scene in the Avengers, they fought on top of one of those things. I'm just going to picture one of those things. That's literally how I rationalized it in my head. So I guess whatever those giant flying things in Avengers were, that's what I'm going to picture. But yeah, it's described as like a dragon / machine, and she feels that she's destined to fight this thing, and that's why she's there. But first she comes into contact with Strife, And I found it an interesting approach to Strife has no idea that she was even there and is surprised to find out that she's an Amazon. Because we already got the scene where she stepped and the wind blew and he picked up on something.
Yeah.
You would think he'd kind of have an idea.
Yeah, but he seems surprised and like, oh, an Amazon. Like, you know who I am? Kind of that little bit of a hero-villain introduction. Yeah,
and they kind of have like a little scuffle, and he has this teleporting power, so he kind of teleports him around a little bit. And he ends up teleporting her into the building as it's collapsing, and it collapses on top of her, which was kind of a cool moment.
Yeah.
And at all while this is happening, she's trying to evacuate the building. So we get our heroic moment. We get a decent action scene and kind of a cool concept of him like kind of jumping her around and stuff. And I like the idea, like the building comes on top of her and she's fine. Like she just has to heal up a little bit. Again, not really explaining her powers.
Yeah, knocked out by a bullet, building falling on top of her.
Yeah, which
not as bad.
Which we get a few moments of her doing I always call it the bullets and bracelets.
That's what it is.
Yeah, which I guess she has some
great.
pretty quick reflexes is another one of her powers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's been fighting for however long she's been alive.
I mean, she's a warrior. So we do get introduced to a character called Clean, Kleen. I'm going to assume.
Oh, it's Clean.
Actually, wait. I think I jumped ahead in my notes here. I'm sorry.
Sounds maybe. Yeah, well, he comes pretty soon. Well,
oh yeah, I somehow scrolled way ahead. I'm so sorry.
No, it's not.
Yeah. So the building collapses on her. So they basically come. So she knows something's up because the Strife is here, and she's like, "Why is he here?" So that's obviously something is going on. So she decides to start tracking down all these drug dealers and stuff because she assumes that will lead her to the root of the problem.
Yeah, I think they kind of give her a hint, like.
Yeah, like hey, a lot of bad shit's out there. We all kind of know about it. Yeah. And so that's who Clean is. He's like this lord. So this leads us to the club.
This leads us to a beat up drug dealers montage.
Yeah. Which I always get tired of the montages, and it's always my problem with the first superhero movie in a series. Spider-Man had this issue where we get him in his. I'm trying to remember in Spider-Man. I think it's when he starts taking pictures, then we move into the montage of him just stopping a bunch of crimes.
Getting paid for the pictures and stopping crimes, And
it's like, I get it. You have to give them their experience.
Yeah. So this isn't their first.
Yeah. So, and it's kind of the same thing. We get the montage of her taking down drug dealer after drug dealer and basically following the breadcrumb trail to this Clean guy. And he's the one kind of in charge of everything. And so we go to the club and we get a little comedy moment where she takes out the bouncer, which we get a really stupid joke where he says he's the bouncer and she knocks him out and they're walking into the club and she's like, I didn't get it. And Steve's like, what? And she's like, he didn't bounce. And you're just like, oh god, yeah, it's real grown joke worthy. And then one of Steve's buddies kind of takes up the bouncer role, and he's letting in kind of like trashy people and tells these hot models that they got to go and eat a sandwich, which is it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
So we introduce a Clean, and her big scheme is she just goes up to him and gives him a pep talk.
It was interesting because after fighting all of the lower level guys, she beats all of them up.
Yeah. And she's always like in all the Wonder Woman media that I've ever seen, she's always been portrayed as she not like looking for a fight, but excited for a fight. So she knows that when she has a reason to beat somebody up, like, hey, this is great. She's a warrior. That's what she does.
Yeah.
And so it was definitely interesting to see her just take on all these guys and all of a sudden just walk up to a guy and talk to him.
I thought it was interesting. I didn't necessarily love the speech she gave.
No, it wasn't like for a moment that was supposed to be like, oh man, like this is going to make this guy think about his life. It's very plain.
It was pretty short and it was pretty like, you could do better. Like,
right. Like, hey, this isn't your life. You don't need to do this. And you're just like
kind of implying that he was doing this because other people had done this and because other people had this life that. But it was nothing.
Yeah, it was really lame.
But I liked the idea, and I could see in a future version it being a larger, more dramatic speech. And
Yeah. But it does give us our introduction to our next fun character. So she basically does it because she realizes that he's not actually the one in charge and something seems off. And then we get this really fucking weird scene where they're at the bar and she takes a drink and then she's like, oh. And I didn't pick up on this till afterward. And then all of a sudden she's like, I want to dance. And so she just goes and starts dancing on the floor. And it's like, everybody's watching her. She's so beautiful and blah, blah, blah. And you basically find out that it's almost like a ritual to get this guy's attention, who is the guy we've talked about before, which is the god of wine, which they have his name, Bacc.
Bacchus.
Bacchus. Is that how you say it? Okay. Just all these characters' names. That's my problem with Wonder Woman. I can't pronounce anybody's names. Yeah, so Bacchus is the god of wine. And I like this character. We only get this brief moment with him.
Yeah.
But he's really funny. The dialogue's really good.
You read American Gods?
I have not.
Okay.
I'm not watching the TV show either. I really. Are you watching the show?
No, because I want to reread the book because I read it in high school.
Yeah, I know a lot of people who have read it. I haven't heard anyone's opinions who's read the book and seen the show. So I'm really curious to see if the show is close.
I want to reread the book because I don't think it'll take that long. But the scene is very American Gods to me.
Is it?
Yeah.
Like what about it? I've never read American Gods. I kind of know a little bit about it.
Yeah, just like if it's gods in the real world and from different cultures and everything, and their kind of power is based, or their life force power kind of thing is kind of based on who believes in them and that kind of stuff.
I've always been a big fan of that idea of gods on Earth, and I read this young adult series a long time ago called Everworld. It was written by the same author who wrote the Animorphs books.
Okay.
And that whole idea was the gods created their own world because the humans were, and it was called Everworld. So it's basically like an alternate dimension. And that's like, I love stuff like that.
Yeah, it's a good book. I definitely would recommend it.
I've always heard Neil Gaiman's a really great writer, and that book in particular is the one I always hear recommended. And with the show out, I really want to check it out. Is it long? Is it not that long?
It was high school reading, so I want to say not that much. I was lucky I got it for summer. I read so much, but it was assigned to me, so I put it off to the last second because it was assigned, and then I read it in the span of 2 weeks. Like, holy crap, this is great.
Would you say somewhere in the span of 200 to 300 pages, maybe
probably
more or less?
Than that. Yeah,
longer.
Okay. Yeah, I'd say 3 to 4 probably.
Yeah,
I guess.
My reading, if it's not comic books, has been so bad lately. And I've never read. The only Wonder Woman stuff I have read is I read a lot of New 52 Justice League. In fact, I read all of New 52 Justice League. Yeah. And I really enjoyed it. And a big part of that is I really enjoyed the moments of Superman and Wonder Woman. Because in the New 52, I don't believe Superman and Lois are a thing for a good chunk of it. Yeah. Because that's kind of one of the DC reboots. And I know everybody shits on New 52, but that's kind of where I came into reading comics heavily. So for me, I ended up really enjoying it. And I really enjoyed the moments with Wonder Woman and Superman. I thought that stuff is handled really well. They're having a Wonder Woman sale right now on the DC app. So I bought
some stuff.
Yeah, I bought Superman Wonder Woman Volume 1. So I'm kind of excited to read that. But I've always enjoyed this, like in Justice League and stuff. I always thought they wrote her really well. I can't remember who's writing that run. I want to say it might have been Jeff Johns, which he's a great writer anyway, and he's handling this new movie, which is maybe why people are liking it. But I don't know if there's any of this old god stuff in Wonder Woman. I've never heard anything like that. I know obviously Ares is in Wonder Woman. That's kind of all I know about it.
Yeah, they definitely do use the gods as like villains and help, and that kind of stuff. They definitely to give blessings, and it's a big part of the Wonder Woman mythology.
Okay.
Yeah, like
that seems like the kind of stuff that would draw me in.
Yeah. Okay. So I will say that most of the Wonder Woman stuff, I was pretty sure I was right, but now I'm looking at the covers. Most of the Wonder Woman stuff that I have read has been the Greg Rucka stuff.
Okay, which he's a name I've seen a lot of.
Yeah, I mean, I think he did a lot, so I'm not sure what portion of it I read. But that's the stuff that, when I was in probably high school, I read a lot of.
Yeah, I know I've seen his name on a lot of books I've read. I just don't know which ones in particular. Mm-hmm. But if it's something, I can't think of anything I read that I hated, so it's probably a pretty good writer. Okay, so we go so Bacchus basically is the one that tells them about this spearhead situation going on.
Yeah.
So this is something I always forget about is the whole Diana Prince thing. And I totally forgot about it until I read this, where she has a human disguise. Kind of like how Superman has Clark Kent, Wonder Woman has Diana Prince. And I I recently heard, so I was listening to that Geek History lesson, and they talk about where that came from. Is in the original like Golden Age years, she bought that identity from somebody, like a nurse who wanted her boyfriend was in the army and going into Africa, and she was really upset. So she's like, "I'll buy your identity, and you can go live with him, and I'll be you here." And that's a weird thing.
Yeah.
But in this, it's just, they never refer to her as Diana Prince. It's just in the writing, he's like, she's wearing a business suit. She's got the glasses. She's in her Diana Prince outfit. So she's never referred to as that.
Yeah,
but,
she doesn't really need a secret identity.
Yeah.
And Wonder Woman, I feel like especially really doesn't have much. I mean, I'd say modern comics, she does not really have a secret identity at all.
I will challenge you on that.
Okay.
And I want to say, so I was reading. Yeah. I was reading, there's a Superman story in the New 52 where, I can't remember the name, I think it's called Doomed, where Superman basically gets infected by a Doomsday and starts becoming Doomsday. Ooh. And it crossed over with a lot of, it was like Superman to Action Comics, blah, blah, blah. One of them was Superman Wonder Woman. And there's a really great issue where they go in their human disguises and go out to like a coffee shop or something, and they have a conversation about why it's great to have these disguises, how they can just blend in. And I would really recommend it. The whole Superman Doom story itself is kind of but
that issue is good.
Yeah, so that's why I'm kind of excited to start reading the Superman Wonder Woman stuff. I want to check that out because I like the dynamic of their relationship that they did in the New 52. Whoever's writing it did a really great job. So there is a great issue that discusses their secret identities, and I like that idea. I like them having a secret identity. So yeah, they go into Spearhead, and they kind of just march into the girl's office.
Works pretty good.
And does this girl ever get dealt with? I don't think she does.
Yeah, she just isn't. She isn't really. She poses no threat.
Yeah, but like, so everything kind of steamrolls into the end pretty quick.
Yeah, and it definitely kind of. Yeah, they're dealing with more and more important people.
So we get into her office, and she's just kind of like, yeah, I'm working with Strife. And she lays out the plan of they're going to destroy everything, and it's going to basically induce fear in the world to give Ares more power, and then they're going to sell military weapons, and she's going to make money. It's kind of lame. But literally, so they escape her office into the pit where they keep the Chimera, and I don't recall her ever being mentioned again. Because then it kind of just becomes, so her and Strife get into a fight, and he basically takes Steve as a hostage and is like, you're going to bow to me or I'm going to kill him. Mm-hmm. And she does, and he reshackles her chains.
Yeah,
or with like re-chains her shackles.
Yeah, with like a magic chain.
Yeah, and then he just drops her in South America.
Yeah.
Which, honestly, I kind of liked.
It was interesting.
I like the idea of putting her in a harsh environment. And when when the chain gets attached to her shackles, it weakens her even more. So she's basically like a normal human.
That's what it seems like. I think at that point, she's just normal. I thought it was interesting because part of it felt like when they did that, they kind of validated what Steve said about, oh, she's a princess and she doesn't know how to live. I felt like, we'll show her struggle to learn what it's like to be human. It's like, yeah, I don't know. It just kind of validated Steve's dumb argument to me.
Yeah, and like right before this happened, like I think because it's right after they escape, he comes at her with like a really horrible argument.
Yeah, he's
he's basically blaming her. He's like, do you ever think it's your fault because you came here that all this is happening?
And again, it's really interesting because there was some sort of reaction that happened with Strife when she did touch on Lamb, but also the plan was already happening.
Yeah.
So I was like,
it's kind of like they're forcing connections when there really are none.
Yeah, and I believe that's when he says like, you're a fucking tourist.
Yeah, which PG-13 movie, they get to drop it once.
But it's weird to have
he says you're not a hero, you're a fucking tourist, which I think it's kind of a great moment. Like him getting out his frustrations, but it's like, why does he come so hard on her all the time?
Yeah, it's weird if you're gonna drop your one F-bomb between the two romantic leads. It's just that's just weird to me. But no, I get why he's frustrated, but I don't know.
He's just always so intense about it.
Yeah, he's really intense, and he's doesn't seem to see her point of view at all. He's just angry about her a lot.
Yeah, and it just really they really just must be planning on casting the most handsome man in the world if we're ever to believe this love story.
Yeah, and just
like you said, it's just sexual attraction, basically.
Yeah, because he seems to dislike everything she does. Occasionally admires her, but doesn't. Yeah. More or less just.
Yeah, there definitely seems, and we get hints that like, oh, he used to be a soldier, and like he basically just doesn't trust people because he's seen how evil the world can be. And
I kind of get that soldier thing where it's like, okay, and also he's done something like he's done stuff a very prescribed way, and then she's kind of going rogue and just doing what she wants, and I don't think that was played out, but I kind of could see that, you know.
Yeah. So we get Diana kind of trying to survive in the jungle, and then on the opposite end, we got Steve trying to devise a plan like, hey, we got to stop this. And he comes up with maybe the dumbest plan I have ever heard of. And we'll get to Diana in a second. Okay. So his whole plan is to bring Strife out in the public. Like, he basically wants to lure him. And it's a real roundabout way. They basically get Keen to drop information to... Okay, I guess she does show up again.
Oh, yeah.
Drop information to Callus about where Steve and his people are so they can go take care of him, because they assume Diana's taking care of it at this point. So they're like, oh, if we take care of these guys, then we're good. So they basically drop the information to her, so that will lead Strife to him. And when he appears in the room, their whole plan is to just broadcast him on the internet. And like, hey, you're found out. And like, no.
Yeah, he's a goddamn god, though. He doesn't like. I don't know what. And the whole thing is like more people believe it. There's sort of a thing where more people.
Yeah, that was the thing too. They're like, oh, if more people believe you, then the stronger you are. So honestly, you're just gonna empower him, and he's just like, oh, well, nobody believes this hocus pocus anyway, so everybody's just gonna assume it's a fake internet video. Which why wouldn't they? Yeah. I see fake internet videos every day on YouTube. I like that
Strife understood how like YouTube works better than Steve.
Yeah. So better than this guy who's in the military.
Yeah, I just thought it was. So I was like,
what was your end goal? And then he's literally not even gonna fight him. He's just like, no, we won, dude. We got you on video. Like, what?
I don't think you understand. They're trying to destroy this city. They're not.
And they don't even say that on the video. It's not like you're getting some businesswoman to reveal her plans live on television. Check
out this scary dude.
Yeah. Like, oh, look at this like crazy promotional thing for a movie coming out. That's weird. Like, nobody's gonna buy that. And what? Like, I don't understand what that was supposed to.
There is I remember that. Oh god, I should have taken better notes. But there's a part where Callus does say after that she realizes how badly she fucked up or something like that.
Yeah, I do recall that. Where I think
she, like, even though she
kind of sees that everything is kind of spiraling out of her control.
Yeah.
Like, where they were all kind of smooth sailing before, now it's like, oh shit, this is not gonna. And she basically unleashes the Chimera. Is her whole thing. So
and it's supposed to be an underground chimera, but then that sucker comes right out of the ground. And that's when people feel bad about it too.
Yeah. So, actually, another part of Steve's plan is he anticipated the chimera coming after them. So I think the whole thing was he lured them separately. He lured the chimera to them through Callus, but he lured Strife to them just somehow. And the whole idea was maybe the Chimera would kill Strife because it comes up through the ground right underneath him.
Yeah.
But he's a god, so nothing happens.
Not a big deal for him.
Yeah. So the Chimera is kind of wrecking shop in this city. And while this is all going on, Diana has been captured. Well, she gets found by like some nice people, and they bring her. They bring her to a village, and they're trying to help her. And then some rebels show up, and they, mess up the people in the village, and they throw her and all the people in the village in a pit. And she starts kind of talking to a little girl and realizes that she's actually talking to her mother. And
she also realizes that her mother has been there all along. Her mother was a hooker.
Yeah. Like somehow, which we don't get any flashback to the island, so we don't know if this is true or not. But it's just like, Hippolyta?
Sure, that's what we're going with.
That she is somehow like what, mind controlling these people? She's
possessing
there
them?
Or is she there in disguise? Can she shapeshift? We get zero explanation.
I don't know possessing, but I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, like she's somehow shifting her consciousness into somebody else to talk to her.
But again, the thing that
because like a hooker says something to her about like being who you are or something like that. And this little girl kind of says the same thing.
But the thing that I would have liked better was if it was like women were supporting her, you know?
Yeah.
It could
like, why does it have to be her mom?
Why does it have to be her mom? Yeah, it couldn't have just been like, hey, I've had the support, you know, I mean, just looking at that little girl and being like, I gotta fight for her, you know what I mean?
Yeah, or looking at that hooker and being like, I have to help these women, you know? There's none of that.
Instead it was like, oh, it's my mom and she's always supporting me. I was like, all right, that's cool, but I think that they missed out on a component of Wonder Woman on this script by trying to make it a superhero movie and not a female superhero movie. They missed out on stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's a big problem. So in talking to her mother / little girl, she is able to break her shackles and regain her strength, basically.
Yeah.
And she gets up there and basically takes everybody out. And then we get the invisible jet.
That's a good invisible jet joke. Or like...
I've never understood the invisible jet. I don't understand the point of it. Because, like, you look at modern day Wonder Woman comics, she can fly. And I felt like, so the way they describe the jet is she lays in it, basically. Like, think of the way Batman rides the motorcycle in The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Like, it's basically like you're in a line, so it looks like she's flying.
Yeah, it's a big glider, pretty much. And she calls it her glider or her jet interchangeably.
But in this, it's a straight up jet because she's able to maneuver and stuff in the air.
Yeah. And there's also a line that Steve says, which I thought was doing. I thought the Amazons didn't have technology. I'm like, again, how do you know? You're there for like.
And her response to that is just because you couldn't see it.
Yeah.
So what? All their technology is invisible? That seems like a real problem. Like, I'm just walking into machinery all the time because I don't even know it's there.
Yeah, I thought that was a little weird. Like, that was a really weird justification of, like, he wanted to put that invisible jet in there. And
it's like, oh, we got to get it in there.
Yeah, we got lasso bracelets.
I really hope they do not put it in the movie. I'm just saying that right now.
I don't think they could. I don't know.
I think in one of the podcasts I listened to, they do reference her flying. So I think she might be able to fly. Yeah, which is preferable.
Yeah.
I'm fine with my Wonder Woman flying.
Yeah,
Got no problem. So she takes the jet and she comes back to Mega City, and basically we have Strife riding the Chimera, and just everything is getting messed up. Steve and them are trying to escape around in a truck, and Diana ends up showing up just in time, naturally, to save them.
Yeah, everything's working out.
Yeah. So like I said before, they kind of justify the jet. So basically when she's in the jet, it just looks like she's flying. So anybody who saw it wouldn't even know.
Which, again, then why have it?
Yeah.
Because they need to.
Yeah, it was one of those things where he describes it like, it really feels like he's trying to describe it as it just looks like she's flying. But then at the very end of the script, they reference her trying to learn to fly on her own.
The end of the script was very strange to me. But
it really is.
They did not know how to end this one.
No. So before we get there... so she comes in and she's fighting the Chimera, and she's fighting it with the jet, and then she ends up kind of taking it down to the ground, and then she gets out of the jet, and then it's kind of a good fight, like they describe some stuff.
Yeah.
Because at the same time as she's fighting this thing, she's fighting Strife, and they end up on the top of it, like she's out of the jet, and they're like sword fighting on top of the thing. And he ends up getting lassoed and like thrown off of it and dragged through a building. Like, there's some good moments.
Yeah.
And there's a dumb moment where Steve walks into the wing of the plane because he can't see it. Because of course. They just couldn't make it more hokey if they tried.
Yeah, there's a couple things. She also goes, "I'm so tired of guns."
Yeah, so a lot of people shooting at her, and she just... Because, she gets shot in the beginning. I think she almost gets shot at a different point. And then there's definitely a lot of moments of her, deflecting with her bracelets.
Yeah.
And then there is the line, "I'm so tired of guns."
I don't know. That one, especially because the "so" is bolded. So I just...
Yeah. It does... The end does feel kind of thrown together. I do enjoy the action scene. I feel like it would be... It sounds like it's a lot of destruction. Like Man of Steel levels of destruction.
At one point, they also do a mention about... Steve does a mention about destruction too, where he says like, "There's people in the buildings."
Yeah.
Thing, where they.
And I think that's kind of what they do during this battle, is try to help people get out of there.
Yeah, that's what Steve's team.
And even Keen shows up with like his homies, and he's got a gun, and they're just shooting at the Chimera. And they actually fire because everybody's standing there watching the battle, and they won't leave. So he shoots his gun in the air to get everybody to run away. So she ends up beheading the beast as she's like fighting on top of it. And this leads to kind of the fight with her and Strife, and he's kind of, got her against the ropes. And I'm trying to remember, what does she throw? Is it his spear?
Yeah, she throws a spear. So Steve does something to anger Strife.
Yeah.
Or he's just angry at him in general. And, let's see, I'm trying to find it. Hang on, Sword's gone. And he pretty much teleports to be.
Yeah, he's teleporting around, and she anticipates it.
Yeah, so it looks like she throws this thing at Steve. She takes his
spear and chucks it at Steve, but Ares appears right in front of Steve at the last minute. Strife, sorry. And it goes through him, and they say it stops inches from Steve's face.
Yeah.
If she threw it a little harder, it might have got them both, and that would have been a really interesting ending.
No, but she's a warrior. She's trained for this.
Yeah, so she ends up killing Strife. Mm-hmm. And this brings in Ares. Because Strife was his kid. So Ares appears. So the only thing I know about Ares is from playing the Injustice video game. Did you play those at all? Do you know anything about Ares? Is from the comics or anything?
He's a god of war. That's pretty much it. He likes war. He tries to create wars. He does wars.
Because it makes him more powerful, I assume?
Yeah. I know him from some of the Teen Titans stuff, too, with Wonder Girl. He's got...
I don't even know who Wonder Girl is.
Oh, Cassie. He gives her a lasso. He gives Wonder Girl a lasso that actually just,
Who is Wonder Girl in comparison to Wonder Woman? Is she just another Amazon, or... Is she an Amazon?
Well, there's a bunch of Wonder Girls. You want to talk about Cassie or Donna or Troy?
I don't know what we're talking about now.
There's some good Teen Titans comics I have if you ever want to read them.
Yeah, you've always been a big recommender of the Teen Titans stuff, which I've read only You lent me a book once. I think I read that. Yeah. I enjoyed, but I've never.
That one had Ares in it.
Did it?
Yeah, he gives Wonder Girl a lasso.
I don't even remember Wonder Girl being in that. That was a while ago.
Yeah, it was a while ago. But so he just. It's just kind of like a
problems. Threat. Yeah, he just comes and threatens her.
Yeah, he can't be killed. So there's that, that kind of stuff. Where
there's that whole thing is hey, if you're gonna mess with us, I'm gonna be here waiting for you.
Yeah, it's very strange because it's a page of dialogue. It's very sequely set up, but also kind of
clearly Ares would be the villain in the next one.
Yeah, and also very clearly the whole I'm going to stick around kind of her reason. Gives her a reason to stick around because you know what? Ares might come back.
Yeah. And like I said, we never get closure on the Callus character. So maybe and she's working with Ares through Strife.
Yeah.
So maybe she would have been back for the sequel as well. Although I hope not, because that was really lame.
Yeah. I don't like evil business people.
No.
It's a little played.
And especially because they did that in Catwoman. It's kind of the same thing. Although this time it's selling military weapons instead of makeup.
Yeah.
That it's kind of a hanging thread, and I honestly didn't even realize that as I was reading it. And it's just a sequel setup. He comes in, I'm coming for you, I'll be here waiting, and that's kind of it.
Yeah, and then Diana and Steve talk a little bit of banter.
They apologize because the last time they talked to each other was when he was being an asshole, which is almost every time they're talking in this script.
She says a prayer to Athena, and then they make jokes about maybe she can fly.
Yeah, she's I've been thinking about riding the currents without the help of the plane. And he's like, you can't do that. And a running joke throughout the thing is how she doesn't like the word can't. And she just looks at him and says, I can't do it. And then it just ends.
Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
What?
Which, it's...
I don't know. Yeah, it seems very strange.
I like the delivery of the line of... Yeah. I like the running thread of that. That was one of those things where I'm like, all right, I like how that paid off in the end.
Yeah. It was just a strange way to end a movie. It seemed like a weird setup for a sequel.
Did you see Guardians 2?
Yeah.
Okay, I just finally saw it.
Oh, nice.
So it's similar to Me in the payoff of in the beginning when Drax says he has sensitive nipples, and then at the end of the movie when somebody just throws a vest on him and he's like, my nipples. It's just one of those things that's kind of peppered throughout the script, and you get the payoff in the end with the line. It's just I
thought it could have been a better line than having to do with flying, which isn't a threat. That is not a thread through the movie.
No, not at all.
If she was just I'm going to bring world peace, and that would have been just
you can't bring peace to the world.
Yeah,
I can't.
Or something I'm going to... Yeah, just literally...
Again, it's just sequel setup.
Yeah, it was just weird that flying was the thing that he decided you can't fly.
Yeah. And why would we ever be led to believe that she can fly? Just because we know from the comics,
you know? It just seemed very strange.
Yeah. I mean, overall, how did you like? As I read it, I will say overall, I enjoyed it. It would be a little weak, but it'd be like an okay superhero movie.
That's what I was feeling. I was like, it would have been okay. I'm actually more excited for the one coming out than I
will agree.
This one, I'm excited to see her in some like I'm thinking based on trailers that it might be a little bit more on the island. She's at least got a cool island outfit and everything.
Well, they show like a straight up battle on the island.
Yeah, so there's some. I would also like it if they. I mean, I don't see why the island can't have a little bit to do with the plot.
Yeah, I mean, or at least return to it at the end or something.
Yeah, or the threat to her people or something.
Yeah,
I just thought it was weird that they were on there so like that was her entire world.
Yeah,
and then she was
for
gone
so
from
long.
It. Yeah,
and then
because
we don't even know how old she is because we know Amazons seem to have an extended aging.
Amazons are immortal.
Okay, so yeah, so we have no idea.
There's only a set amount of Amazons, and that's it.
Yeah, see, I don't know any of this. Yeah. I want to read some Wonder Woman stuff. I just don't know where to start.
Yeah, that's why I like having like libraries that have limited books. Like, well, I guess this is what I'm reading now.
Yeah, I mean, hey, if anybody knows any good Wonder Woman stuff and can recommend anything, I will gladly take some recommendations. Because for me, like I've been saying, it's just I start with the New 52 stuff because that's hey, they relaunched everything. It's a good place to start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I know a lot of that stuff carries over. But yeah, so you're excited for this movie.
Oh yeah, I'm really excited. I think it's gonna be like the best female superhero movie.
I mean, it's almost one of the only. How many are so there's Electra, which she's kind of a superhero, I guess, and then Catwoman. Do we count Jessica Jones? It's not a movie.
It's not a movie.
It's honestly, Jessica Jones is my favorite Marvel property.
Yeah, there's just been a lot. I'd say there's been a lot of more rumored and canceled ones. You know, there's been talk of Wonder Woman movie for so long, and so many others that, like, even though there's only been 2 big ones, the failure of both of them.
Yeah.
And just kind of the story behind of all these other ones that just haven't been able to get off the ground.
Or like how Marvel has had plenty of, or I guess not plenty, they've had Black Widow is the only female superhero on their like Avengers team, but she doesn't get her own movie.
Yeah.
And the first one they're doing is Captain Marvel, which is next year, the year after. Like, I don't understand why it's taken so long. My dream has always been, give me a Black Widow movie that's a James Bond movie, but with a girl.
I think that'd be great as they started to kind of go into more genres to kind of
and because that's what they should do, and unfortunately it doesn't seem like we're ever going to get that movie
now. And I don't think there's any I guess just the
Captain Marvel's the only one. I mean, they haven't announced anything in phase 4 because they said if they did it would spoil the Avengers movies.
Makes sense.
So maybe like, hey, they're going to do Spider-Woman, which Spider-Woman is one I've heard kicked around, but who owns Spider-Woman? Does Sony own it? Does Marvel own it? Do they share it
Does
like they do Quicksilver?
Does Sony own anything anymore?
Sony still owns Spider-Man.
They're just doing the Spider-Man
sharing
movies.
it.
Oh.
And I think, and so they did the announcement they're doing Venom and they're doing Black Cat and Sable.
Okay.
Silver Sable, sorry.
Yeah.
Black Cat and Silver. So that's 2 women leading a movie. So Sony's even doing better than Marvel is.
Interesting.
So I think what's going to happen is, so the deal with Marvel, with Spider-Man, lasts until they're doing, so the Spider-Man movie, the 2 Avengers movies, and then a Spider-Man sequel. And then it ends. And then obviously they can't, so then the deal is over. Huh. So the question is, do they renew the deal? Or does Sony take Spider-Man back and just keep going on their own? And I feel like they're setting up their own universe with Venom, with Black Cat and Silver Sable. And then they're going to take Spider-Man back. And they're going to put him in their universe. And you know, Fox is doing it with X-Men, you know. Everybody's trying to build their own thing.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of my theory for the Spider-Man thing.
Very interesting.
But Marvel's gonna get on that female superhero business.
Yeah,
they're honestly, like, as progressive as they've been with the superhero genre, they're looking really far behind.
Way more in the comics than on the movies, I'd say.
As far as what?
Like,
as far
just
as
female representative. You know, it means female representation, and
they got the female Iron Man now.
Yeah, and
which I haven't read any of.
Yeah, I haven't read a lot of that stuff, but they do. I mean, they have more race and gender representation.
But Marvel's actually been hit for that because everyone seems like, oh, you're just trying to force PC content on us.
Yeah, whatever.
So a lot of people, yeah, it's one of those
whatever
things.
creators want to create, you know what I mean? Just
personally, I love Miles Morales Spider-Man. Everybody's like, oh, you're just making a black Spider-Man because you can. I'm like, sorry, I really like the character.
And it's a comic, so why not do it because you can? That's what I don't understand.
Who cares?
That's what I don't understand. It's
like, hey, if you want to read Iron Man, there's still Iron Man, but we also have a female black Iron Man over here. Like, you don't have to read it, but maybe you should at least check it out.
That's the kind of stuff that I will never get, that people get angry when their
I
stuff
don't
it's
either.
like,
oh my God. Speaking, so sorry. About, I'm going to pull up these pictures and I might have to read this. Did you hear, so the female only screenings of Wonder Woman that happened in Texas.
Yeah.
And all the fucking bullshit that came out about that. Did you hear about the letter the guy wrote to the government? Yeah. And did you see his response letter?
It's pretty good.
Oh my God.
It was so good.
Should I read this or should I just tell people to go find it?
It might be a little long.
Just look for the Wonder Woman letter. A guy sent a letter to the mayor of Austin.
Mm-hmm.
Really shitty, sexist letter of I hope your city fails because you let this happen. And he's basically trying to say
is a screening of Wonder Woman where only women are going.
Yeah, who cares? Like, oh my God, I can't get into it. It's too political.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the mayor sent a response letter, and it is maybe the best thing I've ever read. I saw it on Twitter this morning. Maybe I'll post it to the Instagram for the show if you really want to find it. I highly recommend reading it. It's incredible.
Yeah.
The mayor shoved it back in this guy's face so well. But yeah, that's where we're at with female superhero movies. It's become that big of a deal. And I'm so excited for this movie. I really want it to do well. As I said, I've hated all the previous DC movies, but this is the one that should be good.
She was the best part of that Batman.
She was. Her and Ben Affleck were the only parts of that movie I liked.
Yeah.
And I like her as an actress. She was in the Fast and Furious movies, which I'm a big fan of, and that was what made her, was those movies.
Yeah.
And she's now becoming a big star, and I hope the best for the movie. I hope the best for her. I think she's a great choice. I know a lot of people flipped out about the casting when she was announced, like, oh, she's too skinny. Like, shut the fuck up.
She looks great.
Yeah, I think my wife cares nothing about this stuff, and she kind of wants to see this movie.
Nice.
So I'm kind of hoping to see it this weekend. So yeah, I mean, do you have anything to say about this script?
I think that's pretty much it.
You know, everybody always hails Joss Whedon as this great defender of women's rights, and I mean, he does what he can. But
yeah,
I don't think this would have
he's
been
the guy to have done this.
No, and again, we don't know what draft it was. We don't know what the issues were that caused it to never be made. But I'm glad it never got made, because I do think the one we're getting now looks to be, for one, it's different. I mean, I don't want to say different because Captain America did a period piece too.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. And I'm into it. I hope it does well. I want to see it. I think everybody should go see it and support it. I see all these movies. The only I want to support every comic book movie because
you want more to get made.
Yeah, but it is hard to support DC when they're putting out such shit. And I've already said I am not going to spend money to go see Justice League. The guy who guested on my last podcast, Brandon Prosick, I've heard him mention this before, that sometimes on a day where there might be empty seats in a theater, he will buy a ticket for a movie that he wants to support and then just go see the other movie. I think that's a great idea. So maybe that's how I'll see Justice League. Because I can't support them when they're making such bad decisions. But Wonder Woman looks like their first good decision, and I'm excited for it. And sorry, Joss Whedon, you've done some great stuff, but this was not one of them. But yeah, so I guess that's it for me. That's it for you. All right. Well, thanks for sitting with me.
Yeah,
we finally got to talk about a female-heavy script, because I feel like we always get the ones where it's a lot of misogyny. Yeah. And then we literally talked about the most misogynistic character in history, I think, with James Bond. But all right. Well, thanks for sitting with me. Yeah. And anybody, if you want to follow the show, if you want to follow us on Instagram now, we have the Instagram and Twitter. It's the same, Shelved Podcast. I will post the Wonder Woman letters because I highly recommend reading those. That was a really great thing. And if you have any Wonder Woman recommendations for me, or us, in case you're interested as well, you want to email them to the show at shelvefilmpodcast@gmail.com or send them to Twitter. And I want to learn more about Wonder Woman. So especially with the movie coming out. I know there's some pretty deep cut characters in the movie. I don't know if you ever heard of Dr. Poison or something. No. I think that's a villain in the movie.
I haven't heard of it.
Yeah, so educate me. I want to know more. Yeah, and don't forget to review us on iTunes because that really helps. But all right, Maggie, thanks for sitting with me and talking some Wonder Woman. All right.